Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into day number 3 of Heroes CCL Free Agent Tournament presented by Wisdom. My name is Bahamut, and I am joined for this day, just like yesterday, by Justing. My friend, how are you? And did you have a nice, relaxing couple hours of relaxation getting into today's games?
Yeah, I had a great morning, had a great breakfast. Not as good as yours, I'm sure, but by the looks of it, I tried my best, and I'm really excited to get into these games today. After the 2-0 across the board from all the teams yesterday, I'm really excited to see how the teams are going to stack up against some stronger competition going into today.
Yeah, yesterday's competition was very, very strong, favoring the blue side for a lot of those games, if not all of them. But it was really, really a lot of fun. Here's the Storm action today. We're going to have a lot more for you all today. So we're excited to be able to bring you the final day of the Heroes CCL Free Agent Tournament. And it is going to be Justing and I bringing all that action all morning long. So while we're sitting here getting ready to check out that bracket, I'm just curious, what's the one thing from yesterday that you're kind of like, okay, I saw that yesterday. Now today I want to see, like maybe more wombo combos, maybe more dive comps. What are you kind of keeping your eye keen for today, Justing?
I'd like to hope that teams like Clown Fiesta and Team IDK, the two teams that I sort of wasn't really expecting to do as well, that really, really outperformed my expectations yesterday. I'm hoping to see them continue to be strong against these stronger teams, because the teams that they're facing are a lot more, well-known players, and they're a lot more of like a team that I would expect to do well. So I'm really just hoping that those two teams that I would consider sort of the underdogs going into today's matches, I hope that they keep up the aggression and that we see that kind of fast, just quick engages and just aggressive playstyles that we saw from them yesterday.
There's a lot of aggressive play styles from yesterday, and we can actually break down how all of those matches went in our bracket here. We had 4 best of 3s yesterday, and I wasn't kidding. The blue side was a dominant factor. 2 O's across the board from our matches yesterday, but now we are here in that middle of the bracket, the semifinals. We have Peasants Anonymous versus Clown Fiesta. That'll be our first best of 3. And our second best of 3 will be Scaling Copium versus IDK. And we will close out today with a best of 5 grand finals. What is your expectation going into that grand finals, Justin? Who do you think from the upper and lower semifinal matchups will be in that grand final matchup later today?
My mind is telling me Peasants Anonymous versus Scaling Copium, but my heart is saying Clown Fiesta versus Team IDK. Both of those teams really, really exceeded my expectations yesterday, and I think that either one of them could take their series against the other teams that they're playing against. Being some mostly like underdog teams that just really, really exceeded expectations, like I said before, it's going to be really, really tough to call who actually makes it to the finals here. I think anyone could end up in the finals today.
I would absolutely agree. I'm putting my guesstimation on a Peasants Anonymous versus Scaling Copium best of 5, but we'll have to see what's going to happen with that. We are getting ready for our first best of 3 of the day, and it is going to be that Peasants Anonymous versus Clown Fiesta, and we can check out that Peasants Anonymous roster right now with Nintori, Tremor, Unaverted, Kelsier, and Slug Hunter. Who's on the opposing side of the battleground, Justin?
And on Team Clown Fiesta, we have Pickles of Death, Chakram, Squirrel, Arion, and Aether. And this team was the team that I'd say out of all the teams really outperformed the most yesterday. They really surprised me the most. They had probably the quickest engagements, the fastest follow-up. As soon as Diablo charged someone, their team instantly, and a Wailing Arrow came out, or there was no hesitation whatsoever. They're the team that had the best sort of synergy, I would say, with their Wombo combo. They had the Leap APOC combo that was just flawlessly executed. Really, really well done. And when we listened to their comms, they were a team that sort of, there wasn't too much communication going on. Everyone just seemed to know exactly what their job was on their team. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how that comes into play in their games today against a more experienced team with, the likes of Tremor and other like experienced players like Unaverted.
We'll definitely have to check out those comms throughout the matches today, but I believe we have our first map ready to go for everyone at home. We can check out where we're going to be heading into for our first best of 3 of the day. It's going to be Peasants Anonymous choosing to take us to Dragonshire, which means Clown Fiesta will have first pick priority. How did we get to Dragonshire? Well, Peasants Anonymous went ahead and banned out Alterac Pass, as well as Tomb of the Spider Queen, Sky Temple, Tomb of the Spider Queen, and Garden of Terror, unfortunately banned out by the members of Clown Fiesta. Getting into this Dragonshire matchup, You and I, Justin, had talked a little bit before getting into the broadcast today about expectations between Peasants Anonymous and Clown Fiesta on the tanking side of things. And and I want to continue that conversation here on the broadcast because I think tanking on Dragonshire is such a critical factor. I mean, solo lane is obviously kind of lives on its own island, but the tanking between Tremor and Pickles of Death, who do you think might have a little bit of a stronger play? Because you had talked so well about how Pickles of Death was able to execute super well on that Diablo yesterday. Do you think that it's going to be an upper hand for Pickles of Death, or do you think Tremor just has more experience and it's not even going to be something he's worried about?
I think I would say that Tremor is the sort of the supreme tank in this tournament out of all the players as far as I've seen previously.
Sure.
Tremor is just a very, very solid tank player, and he understands how to manipulate space and vision and do all the things that a tank really needs to do. That being said, Pickles of Death really did just really outperform yesterday on the Garrosh in particular, where he manipulated his vision really well. So the enemy team sort of had false senses of safety when really that safety wasn't there, and that was sort of how they won the game, is through getting picks outside of the objective, just in the rotations off of the objective. So I think it'll be a tough fight for him to actually beat Tremor in that. But it also comes down a bit to the tank matchups, depending on whether they go for something more like a Johanna or if they look for something like a Muradin on this map. It really decides sort of the way that tank matchup is going to play out. So it might not be as tank v tank focused, depending on what they pick. So we'll have to see.
I'm really excited for this as we're getting into Dragonshire. We got a couple bans so far, and Lunara to be banned out. We did have quite a bit of play from her yesterday and some fairly strong games from her. Maya being consistently banned out as well, as she did have that buff on some talents, as well as just the Vigorous Vault at level 20, which is just a baseline. You hit level 20, you get a secondary charge of Vault of the Warden, and that's 13-second cooldown per charge. That is, Justin, that self-cleanse ability is just, it feels horrible to go up against. Great to play, horrible to go up against.
Yeah, it's definitely a way that Maya players can kind of flex on their opponents. You get a little invulnerability button every short time, so depending on how you use that can really change things, and having 2 charges might just be too much for the late game. And the bribing ban isn't super surprising, so they're right away they're just going for globals, which the Hawk is just always a good pick on Dragonshire. It kind of allows you more flexibility in the macro. Dragonshire plays out very uniquely from a macro standpoint. It's a map that most teams either really, really love or really hate, because you sort of have a lot of people all doing their own thing. There's no way to have one guy or one player just sort of micromanage everyone. It's really impossible on a map like Dragonshire. So we'll see which teams are more coordinated and which teams are more kind of self-reliant in their rotations.
A Chromie to come out here with the Blaze. I actually like this. Do you think this will be a solo lane Blaze into the Dahaka, or this will be maybe like a main tank to play into the Chromie for that AoE stun to set her up for some big burst potential?
I'm really expecting it to be Blaze solo lane. Blaze on this map in particular is one of the strongest offlaners for sort of just absorbing pressure. It's very hard to push into a Blaze in the top lane on Dragonshire, and the top lane isn't normally a major focus, but something that they've done is, since Junkrat is banned, Junkrat and Chromie are sort of the premier goalies on this map, where it's very, very hard to siege into them. So a normal strategy here is for them to most likely leave their Chromie bottom lane, making it nearly impossible for the Clown Fiesta to siege into them on the bottom. And then Blaze is also very, very good at absorbing any kind of pressure top. So I really like the draft so far, the 2 picks coming out from Peasants Anonymous.
We have that Anduin as well as Savannah, so good push potential from Clown Fiesta in the bottom lane, as well as some CC in the baseline ability. Gonna get rid of that Garrosh, not wanting to be able to potentially throw the Blaze around in that bottom lane, or even just walk into Chromie's face and get a AoE stun with the Warlord's Challenge, or even another toss onto her. So some cool bans, some cool picks so far. As we get into the latter half of Dragonshire, what are your expectations for either of these teams as we have a Stitches ban?
Curious to see what tank Tremor goes with here. It will kind of decide the flow of the draft. The Stitches being banned, which isn't a huge surprise after his performance on it yesterday, and also with the Garrosh ban. With Garrosh and Stitches being banned out, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Diablo would be a little bit more risky, but I think either Diablo Muradin or a Nubarak would be things that I would expect coming out from Tremor. It kind of depends how they want to play it. So it is the Diablo, which isn't terribly surprising, and now that means that Clown Fiesta really is going to need to pick up something that can deal with that Diablo on the front line. They're going to need a Tychus or some other form of percent-based damage, or at least just a strong auto-attack-based character, because otherwise this Diablo might just end up being sort of invincible.
He might be a Lord of Terror, one could say. But I do really like the Malfurion with that as well. You have some CC into those bushes around the bottom lane as well with the root, as well as probably Emo Dream, and Chromie can then play into that. There's the Muradin you were talking about, but a Zeratul to come out. Zeratul is going to be floating around the map, and actually we've got, I guess you could say, a counter jungler if you want to use different MOBA terms here, because Tracer, I'm kind of feeling she's going to fish around for a couple kills, dive into the backline on Sylvanas and Anduin, whereas Zeratul is going to be trying to dive onto Malfurion and Chromie. I'm liking both of these drafts, Justin. Which way do you lean? Because I don't actually know.
It's on a map like Dragonshire, a lot of it is just going to come down to execution. The way that the team on Clown Fiesta sort of pivoted to, we're not going to try to even attempt to kill Diablo. Instead, they sort of pivoted to, we're going to just play for dive. They sort of recognized that with their comp, they probably can't play front to back and just try to fight the Diablo. He's just too tanky. So I do like their decision to go into the Zeratul and sort of look for a dive, but it's really hard to dive into Chromie and Blaze, and then also having a Tracer just chasing you around. I'd have to say that Peasants Anonymous has a slightly better draft, but I'm not sure if the draft is necessarily better for the map, because their comp is sort of needs to be grouped to really be ultra effective, whereas Clown Fiesta has a lot more self-reliant characters, which I think caters a bit more towards the map. So it's relatively close. I think a lot of it will just come down to who's better on the map.
The execution's always the critical factor in these situations. I was trying to just mentally predict which side I would lean into, and Zeratul is kind of an X factor for me, but then I look over, I'm like, man, that's Unaverted's Tracer at the same time. So I'll put my stock into Clown Fiesta for this one here going into Dragonshire, but we're about to load into the map. Thank you all for hanging out and enjoying HeroesCCL free agent tournament. I'm super pumped about this, and this is going to be, as you were saying earlier, possibly some upsets in these best of threes to start off our semifinals today. Because yesterday, as mentioned, it was all 2-0s, and I would hope that today is not 2-0, 2-0, and a 3-0, but we'll have to see, because we are just about loaded in to Dragonshire, and we can get you all that action here on our first map of the day. We can get these teams introduced for you, as well as on the left-hand side, we have the members of Peasants Anonymous. Nintori playing the Blaze, Kelsier on the Chromie, Shremmer to be on Diablo, Slug Hunter playing Malfurion, and Unaverted on the Tracer.
And on Clown Fiesta, we have Pickles of Death playing Muradin. We have Sylvanas played by Chakram. Squirrel will be playing the Anduin. Arion is playing the Zeratul, and we have Aether playing the offlane Dahaka.
Looking at those level ones, we've got a enhanced agility Dahaka, so he'll be trying to meander his way between mid and bottom. Chromie, as you just saw, utilizing the Time Walker's Pursuit to get some vision on the enemy team to see what exactly Clown Fiesta will be doing at the start. Will they all rush into mid? Yes, absolutely. But the one thing, Justin, I want to talk about here really quickly is move unseen from Zeratul. Reduce the cooldown of Permanent Cloak by 1 second, and also gain 30% movement speed, which is mount speed, while stealth. This is interesting to me, because we don't ever see this. It's either Greater Cleave or Shadowhunter.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder if that means that he's going to be mostly playing to just play mid-top exclusively. Since the rotation is pretty small between mid and top, and Zeratul doesn't really like to fight too much early game, it's a really interesting adaptation that maybe he just wants that mobility, and it also might be something that is a response to the Tracer. Having a Tracer just sort of follow you around can be really obnoxious, and you might not even get the opportunity to mount up. Pickles of Death just jumps right in, though. I like that they're so far keeping up the aggression, but I hope that they don't get baited into sort of fighting too often into what is a somewhat near indestructible setup for the defense with the Chromie and the Blaze across the map on Dragonshire.
With Pickles of Death dwarf tossing, and I had to double check his level 1 because I was like, wait, didn't he go third win? He didn't go dwarf toss at level 1, or the dwarf block, excuse me, so he didn't have the physical armor, and I was like, this is a very aggressive utilization of your dwarf toss, because typically when you don't have that armor and everything from level 1, you want to sort of hold it as a defensive, disengage tool. You can obviously engage with it, but you better be engaged to get that kill. Tracer forced to use the recall, jumps back onto Iron, but Aaron is not able to get the Zeratul kill. Zeratul, though, maybe going for this Dragon Knight.
Oh, wow.
Yes! Wow! I thought Tracer or Diablo would be able to do some sort of an interrupt, but no. First Dragon Knight of the game, 1 minute and 45 or so seconds in, will be grabbed. Let's see what siege they get here, Justin.
This is really impressive already from the red team. in the same way that they recognize that Diablo would be unkillable and it might be a waste to even try to play a kill the Diablo composition, and the way that they pivoted. Murden also is somewhat invincible into the enemy team with Tracer and Chromie. Those aren't necessarily the best tank killers, and Murden also has a lot of HP. The fact that they're recognizing that and he jumped in that moment too is just like a sign of the confidence that he knows. Both teams understand how what their comps are good at, and you really love to see it. And getting a Dragonite this early can only really happen due to just really, really good macro or a macro blunder from the enemy team.
Unaverted getting chunked quite heavily. Tremor goes in for the Shadow Charge, but Tremor is very far forward without the friendly team. Said friendly team is being split by Pickles of Death and Aether, but that's so much damage into the Zeratul, who's able to blink away and will just kind of rush out of the engagement. Pulse Bomb connects onto Pickles of Death. There's a lot of damage into the Murden, but I thought there was a turnaround onto Tracer. She is able to live with 55 HP.
Yeah, it's really... I can't give more praise, really, to Clown Fiesta for how they're playing this so far. The understanding of the map and that everyone needs to be kind of... Oh, Ether might actually go down here if the root... Oh, he skirts out of there real quick. But listening to their comms yesterday, Clown Fiesta really seemed to not really need to communicate much. They just all sort of knew what the right thing to do is, and on a map like Dragonshire, that is the absolute most valuable thing you can possibly have. So while the blue team might, in a traditional map where it's more team-based, might do better, be more coordinated, in a map like this, things might be a bit too hectic.
Well, things are really hectic right now for Dahaka, but that Lurker Strain 2 times in a row really helping out, said Dahaka, with just the knockback, the slow on the enemy members, a little bit of a speed boost for himself, and the stealth. And it also has cooldown reduction on your burrow as well. Yes, I was not kidding yesterday when I said Lurker Strain does about 5 different things. Good steal onto the Siege Giants, or the Lobsters, if you will, from the members of Clown Fiesta. And this will be another objective phase popping up here in a few moments as Pickles of Death and Sylvanas start sieging in through mid.
This is really impressive. But Tremor actually engages, and they might be able to get the kill onto Squirrel.
Oh, definitely, with that root right there from Malfurion, well placed. Chakram taking a lot of damage, gets back by the front gate.
I was just about to give them praise for that invade, taking the Siege Giants, and then using that as a window to actually siege bottom, because typically when you have a Chromie down here, it's near impossible to siege into them, even with the Sylvanas. So they took the camp due to the over-rotation from Peasants Anonymous top, and then they used that as a window to siege bottom. And even that fight, although Anduin went down, the Siege Giants actually managed to get quite a bit of damage still on the fort. If you can see, the fort took at least 10% of its HP, so even though Anduin died there, it's still a good play overall for Clown Fiesta.
And Clown Fiesta has a small lead with experience, and I believe that's probably just from the siege camps they've stolen away, as well as some of the extra other camps that are just been placed on the map. Tremor in front of this gate taking a lot of damage, but going to be down to still above 50% of their HP and 78 souls on Tremor, who finds a nice Shadow Charge into Pickles of Death. Leap of Faith from Squirrel pulls the Muradin out of the situation as our Zeratul has rotated down to bottom lane. Fight should break out in a moment.
We'll see if Muradin just jumps right in. They really want to force this. They even commit the Dahaka dig, but I don't think that the Peasants Anonymous will give them a real fight here. You see that Nintori is getting on top, so everything should be mostly avoided. But they're aggressive. They're committed.
Yeah, another Dwarf Toss in from Pickles of Death, who's going to be able to CC this Diablo quite a bit, but this is Diablo with a Malfurion healing up. He's got Fire Stomps. He is living in front of his own gate without much threat. Obviously, his health bar dropping, but Tracer does go down to the Zeratul. A little bit of a... It's so sneaky, we didn't even see it.
I like that the Zeratul opted into the Might of the Nerazim build, most likely as an answer for the Tracer. Because if you go Q build, the normal build...
Yeah, that's going to be...
Actually. Okay.
That's a really good turnaround into Diablo. Didn't lose his souls, though, 98.
Oh, that's pretty fortunate, actually, for Tremor there. Unless... Okay, so they're not going to get the DK off of this unless they manage to rotate more members mid, which they might actually be able to do it. We'll see if Chromie has the confidence to step on bottom, but Murden's there. I think the red team's just going to secure the dragon here. Ooh.
Zeratul ran out of cooldowns, or he might have sacrificed himself so that the Dragonite was capped by Dahaka. But
that's worth for sure.
Yeah, Zeratul traded for a Dragonite. Oh, I would take that right there, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good understanding too that, you know, he's not a KDA player. He's playing for the win. He knows that he might go down there, but they get the Dragon Knight. We'll see if they're actually able to get much with this, though. I'm hoping that they can maybe split with it and allow their team to get some pressure on a different lane.
Tremor knows this and sees what they're doing, and that was a lot of CC onto Sylvanas, who did have her black arrows up and available as we were rotating our camera down here, so that's already been utilized. There was a little attempt onto Split Siege, but I don't think this Dragon Knight found much. Maybe some damage in the mid lane fort. Aether does have a drag onto Nintori. There's a recall from Unaverted. There's an Apocalypse from Diablo. There's so much CC onto this Dahaka, who's not able to burrow, not able to use Essence, and will go down 3-2 and kills 12-12 in our levels.
Fortunately for Clown Fiesta, though, there's no Dragon Knight available right now, so both teams are just going to move back to a defensive position. One thing I'm noticing is that Clown Fiesta is beginning to get a little bit baited into playing into what Peasants Anonymous's comp does best, which is sort of setting up a defensive perimeter around top and bottom so that there's very little windows to siege into. They're sort of getting sucked into bot lane a bit too much, I think, because fighting into the Chromie down there is really, really difficult. It's just hard to control that point. So I'd like to see Murden especially sort of start splitting off a bit and maybe just contain or controlling that middle space where Tremor and friends right now are, and hopefully not getting baited into any 5v5s in the bot lane because their comp really wants to play more split on the map.
Speaking of bot lane, it's actually Tremor stepping in, trying to set something up here. Pickles of Death just throws a little Stormbolt into Diablo's face, saying, hey, I see you, absolutely. I do want to note that the Diablo did go into the Devastating Charge at level 13, needs 5 stacks on that one, and does have full souls on that Black Soul Stone. But top lane, a fight will break out around this Blaze Nintori. Do you have a bunker? They do, but can Nintori jet propulsion away? Drag Tongue says no. Nintori, you gotta be kidding me. There's no way. This Zeratul, he's got to be so angry. Oh. I would be so... And Zeratul, he's checking around. He's looking for it, but he sees Nintori rotate through the middle of the lane. There's no way Zeratul can catch up to this. And
this
wow.
This might be a DK, though. If Clown Fiesta is able to win the fight down on bottom, it might transition into a DK with Nintori already bottom.
That was a wonderful light bomb with the Dwarf Toss from Muradin. Aether taking a lot of damage. Diablo goes down. That Soul's reset. And this Dahaka is able to just kind of meander his way around the map. Once again, he's halfway through that enhanced agility from level 1, so he actually has mount speed when he touches a bush for 5 seconds. Stormbolt into Nintori. Pickles of Death does get hit with the Pulse Bomb from Tracer, and Chromie finds the last little bit of damage necessary as Diablo is back in the mix, trying to reset those souls, or bring them back. Really good read from Squirrel, I agree, yeah.
That was an incredible route, just stopping Tremor right in his tracks. The red team was slightly, on Clown Fiesta, was a little bit impatient there with their engage. Had they been able to wait and allow Dahaka to get on the top point before that, then they maybe could have retreated and just played and secured a DK there with their 1 kill that they got at the start of the fight. Regardless, though, things are about even, and no team comes out with a huge advantage based off of that.
Some siege to be had in the top lane from Dahaka. Zeratul will take out that well. So the lane sustain, as you and I were talking yesterday, Justing. And the top lane for that Blaze is going to be a little bit more difficult, as he'll have to rotate into mid or back to his keep, or just hearth out completely to be able to reset. And otherwise, it's just going to be some camps pushed up on the map. It's a little bit of a lull right now when we're looking at things, but do you want to jump into comms for one of the teams to maybe hear how they're getting along on this first map?
Yeah, sure. Either one. I'd like Peasants Anonymous, maybe.
All right, into Peasants Anonymous, we will go.
Stun in 1.
I don't have bomb.
I don't have anything. I need to get on point.
Care, Murden could be on the flank.
I'll go with DK.
They're not getting bottom. Ooh, he's on it now.
Actually, I'm sprinting bottom. I like looking at this.
I'm gonna wait for Tremor.
Yeah, I can time trap that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Nice.
I go DK now. They're coming top with Mura and
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm throwing a vision.
I'm gonna come down. I have QE on this.
Stun, yeah.
Come here.
You keep you guys stun.
2, 1. Then
Let me get
can we get
Lemmy.
in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Tracer's fine.
Whatever.
Wait.
He took W for.
Oh, okay.
I think we bomb ourselves, then DK mid.
Yeah, that's fine.
Justing, the biggest takeaway from me for that entire thing was Kelsier just goes, oh, I can time trap that. And I think Nintori was like, oh, I don't know. And then they just blow up. Oh my god, that was such a good read though, and communication and planning coming out from the side of Peasants Anonymous, and really, really nice comms as well. Just the open air so everyone can kind of discuss things, and it's not just all chaos, but chaos actually ensues onto Muradin as he has to pop the avatar form.
Yeah, it was nice to hear how Arian actually getting a little bit low. I don't know if Muradin should be fine here, I think. It's nice to see how they communicate on a map like Dragonshire. The comms are always very different than on most maps. So there's a lot more individual things going on. So it's good to see a team be able to communicate across the map like that. How Nintori started that play top and kind of ended up all the way bottom to follow up on that. And it kind of shows the power of the strategy that the blue team has on Peasants Anonymous, where top side of the map is pretty much just covered by Blaze, and the bottom is covered by Chromie, and that's also why the Chromie priority was so high.
That makes a lot of sense. There was a time trap misread by Nintori on that Jet Propulsion. Devastating charge finished out by Tremor, as there's some souls that need to be gained here. Diablo at 51. That was a really good drag onto this Blaze, but that still is the Zeratul going down first in this engagement. Dahaka to follow up, and that's another Shadow Charge from Diablo, focusing onto this Sylvanas, but the healing, the Desperate Prayer from Squirrel will be on point, and the mid lane fort will fall. So far, Peasants Anonymous in the latter half of this game have really kicked up the aggression and have been putting up kill after kill in almost every engagement we've seen them in, and this might be another one right now into Pickles of Death. No, the Leap of Faith, too good here, Justing.
Yep, Squirrel's having really good pulls this game. Unfortunately, he doesn't have enough to save his entire team all the time. But his pulls so far, each pull he's had, I think, is actually just for sure saved person being pulled. So really good play coming out from Squirrel, and we'll see if Clown Fiesta is able to get up in time to defend this if they choose to keep pushing. It looks like they don't. They're just looking to probably take Mercenaries to reset for the DK. And if they can, they would ideally, on Peasant Anonymous, try to sort of set the lanes up so that they can either just stall for level 20s, or if they can sort of play to put pressure on mid for the DK so that the enemy team is in a weird situation where they can't really commit to... Basically, their goal is to stall for level 20s. They're almost there, so they're going to want to get Mercs out and then just sort of set up in one lane, because the blue team's comp functions much better as a group. They want to be grouped up. So if they get their lanes pushed out, they can sort of just sit in one lane and basically force the game to go to get a level 20 advantage.
Looking at the top lane right now, Nintori does jump up here to try and get control of our Sunshine. And I think Nintori knows there's so many enemy members up here. Actually, Tremor comes in as well. Good Shadow Charge onto the wall, focusing onto this Dahaka, who does get the isolation onto Nintori. This Blaze backing off for a second. Great Leap of Faith, as you had mentioned. Squirrel on point with these Leaps of Faiths, and does have that Glyph of Faith from level 16 for the secondary charge, but still, I believe it's a 70-second cooldown, so still waiting for a couple of those to recharge, or at least one of them, if I'm not mistaken. I can check it. Yeah, 40 seconds on one charge for Leap of Faith, and Diablo back at full souls. This is looking, and I said this a moment ago, but it keeps falling back in favor of Peasants Anonymous. Justing, what does Clown Fiesta need to do here? Is it one big fight, or is it playing defensively? Because this right here is not working out, as Pickles of Death has to Dwarf Toss away.
Yeah, Clown Fiesta might just be stuck under this tower. This might be enough to just win the game, actually. If they manage to get the DK off of this with 3 kills, it might be enough. Kind of just trapped in here, just waiting for his doom. But yeah, Clown Fiesta sort of needed to play more into their name of being Clown Fiesta-like, and they needed to play the map more split. They were grouping a little bit too much, which is really what Peasants Anonymous comp wants to do and what it excels at.
Okay.
When they're grouped up as 5 or even as 4, they're going to be much, much stronger than Clown Fiesta. So we'll see if Clown Fiesta is actually able with these death timers to survive through this, but I think a DK, they might just look for the end here.
You could definitely grab the Dragon Knight, rotate to bottom lane, and secure that keep at least. As I'm curious for myself, the Dragon Knight currently does 405 base damage, but into structures, as always, like to note, is doubled. So that is 810 damage per auto attack into the structures. You also have that Flame Breath, dealing a lot of damage over time, 277 currently, and there's the additional 416 in the AoE area. So let's see, will Chromie be able to end the game for the side of Peasants Anonymous, or can Clown Fiesta pile into the car and turn things around? Let's see what happens here as the Dragon Knight has approached the core. We have a huge Apocalypse from the Diablo. There's a root underneath the Muradin. So much damage goes out, and Anduin goes down. Straight into Malfurion as the bunker has come down from Blaze. Dragon Knight wailing its way through the core, and this is definitely going to be game number 1, going over to the side of Peasants Anonymous. A controlled game by our blue team here, Justing. The early game was looking really good for the side of Clown Fiesta, but it was, I would say, around 10 talent tiers, And in those rotations from mid to bottom, top to bottom from Blaze, that the Peasants Anonymous found their victory through Dragonshire.
Yeah, you could tell that Clown Fiesta they were doing better at the beginning when they were kind of making the game into more of a Clown Fiesta. The more split that they were, just applying pressure on both sides of the map at the same time, mostly just putting pressure top with the 2v1, that was really what was working for them well. That was what was winning for them. As soon as they sort of got sucked into the playing through bottom lane trap, which is that's really what the Peasants Anonymous excels at. That's what their comp wants with the Chromie. It's nearly impossible to fight that 4v4 bottom with Malfurion and Chromie and Diablo. They're just too strong in a 4v4 like that. So as soon as Clown Fiesta started grouping, that was sort of their downfall. If they would have continued splitting, they would have had a much better shot. But it's just too difficult to play into a comp like what Peasants Anonymous ran.
We've talked a lot about Chromie, Tracer, Blaze, Diablo. We've talked about pretty much everything but the supports. We touched on Squirrel's Anduin, but I want to point out Slug Hunter's Malfurion was really good here. Like 16 healing shy of 80,000 healing for the friendly team. Like, that's really, really just good manipulation of Malfurion's abilities to be able to tag people with the regrowth and be able to get the Moonfires for the sustainability or even just the extra healing. Malfurion and Tracer, we didn't talk about this in the draft, pair so well together, so Tracer can kind of just go do her own thing and he can heal her from afar. And even then, Tracer, God, man, Unaverted had a phenomenal game here. This was a really, really great map number 1 for the side of Peasants Anonymous, but I'm not counting Clown Fiesta out just yet, Justing. I think Clown Fiesta can really turn it around in map number 2. I think they just need to play, as you were saying, their playstyle. I think they need to get away from this sort of, I wouldn't say like just standard per se. I think they need to go a little outside the box and try and catch Peasants Anonymous off guard.
Yeah, I'd say it's very, very hard to play on Dragonshire with a less experienced team. I would say it's the hardest map to play for teams that aren't super, super coordinated. That is a map that, like I said earlier, you either pretty much ban it as a team or you master it, and there's really no in between, because that's a map where everyone needs to be perfectly doing their roles, and each player needs to be a cog in a perfectly, each cog is interlaced. If anything goes wrong even a little bit with one of those, it sort of just falls apart. That's when the DKs come, and they needed to recognize sort of that Peasant Anonymous comp is very easy to run if the enemy team sort of pushes into them. And they sort of took advantage of Clown Fiesta trying to be so aggressive with their composition, because if Clown Fiesta ever decides to group and push advantages in an actual teamfight setting in a 4v4, they sort of just can't. It's kind of like fighting into a brick wall of the comp that Peasant Anonymous was running. And it's to be expected for a team that's not super experienced playing together, but I think on a different map, Clown Fiesta might be able to just sort of flex on them in a team fight, and that would be sort of more playing towards their strengths.
It was a really, really fun map number 1, and you kind of said playing into a wall, and we kind of had said that Diablo, Tremors Diablo, at some point could be nigh unkillable, and yeah, there was one death on the Diablo as he was really split from the friendly team, but after that devastating charge was finished out, it just seemed like Diablo was unkillable almost in that first Dragonshire map. So kudos to the side of Peasants Anonymous. We'll have to figure out if the members of Clown Fiesta can start rolling things back in map number 2. Or Justing, are we going to be filled with another day of 2-0s and a 3-0?
No.
Please, I don't want it. All right,
No.
let's find out where we're going to be going to for map number 2. And this will be the map, Justing, that Clown Fiesta rolls it back on. Clown Fiesta, the losing team, opted for first pick priority, and that means Peasants Anonymous have map pick and have chosen to take us to Battlefield of Eternity. Do you think Battlefield, a smaller map, a 2-lane map, more objective focused of a map, is going to be better for Clown Fiesta, or do you think this just plays right into Peasants Anonymous? Because I do want to remind everyone at home, Peasants Anonymous had a sub 12-minute game on this map yesterday.
I think this should play into favor of Clown Fiesta a bit. They're very strong as team fighters. They're very good at pulling the trigger and just quickly engaging a fight, and they seem mechanically sound across the board. I think Dragonshire is sort of an unfair place to see how skilled they are. I think a map that's more straightforward, what's less macro-based, like Battlefield, could be a lot better for a team like Clown Fiesta that wants to sort of just group and fight. And I really hope that they draft with that in mind, because last game, if both teams are playing sort of standard, I'd say that Clown Fiesta was their draft was much harder to play. So I hope that they draft something that's a little bit more comfortable and a little bit easier on a map like this that can end so early, that can be so brawly.
What do you prioritize for maybe something that's like on the simpler side? Are you looking at like a Raynor? I was gonna say Lunara, but then she's gone. But maybe like, do you look at like Hanzo, Raynor, Greymane? I kind of don't want to say Vala because she's starting to kind of get to this spot that I'm not totally convinced she's a super good range assassin like she was a month or so ago.
So I think they need to commit heavily to a style, like either going for dive or going to play front to back. It has felt like in this tournament that playing front to back is really the supreme strategy, which makes sense because it's in general just the easiest strategy to play. You sort of just stat check the opponent and both teams kind of walk into each other, and it's just focusing on the tanks. And it has seemed like a lot of drafts have been one team has a tank like a Diablo that's just really invincible. I'm not sure. I think Diablo may have won every game it's been picked in so far.
I think you might be right with that one.
The teams aren't recognizing how strong he is as a frontliner, and they're opting to play front to back into it. Or in the last game, they were trying to play like a pseudo dive comp, but on Dragonshire, it's a lot harder to do that without taking any forts early, which they weren't able to do. So on a map like Battlefield, if they really commit to dive, this is one of the better maps for dive. So I'd like to see either them understanding the front to back or committing to dive and running like a Nubarak, Li Ming type stuff, just really aggressive, or falling back and playing that front to back.
Well, Clown Fiesta will start things out with a Hanzo. We'll see if they go into that Anubarak, if they go into a dive comp, or if they play, as you were saying, front to back sort of situation. As we get into the other side of the draft for Peasants Anonymous, I honestly, I'm kind of just want to sit back and see what they grab, because I'm really, really liking their draft theory, their play style, and their comms as we jumped in that last game was really good. But here comes Zavala, and hey, maybe Peasants Anonymous will convince me otherwise of my thought of Vala kind of starting to fall off a little bit in priority. But Slug Hunter will be going for that Malfurion once again, and as I mentioned, nearly 80,000 healing on Dragonshire. Really well played from Slug Hunter here.
Yeah, Vala Malfurion, it sort of shows your hand early.
Okay.
They're very committed to the Vala already. As soon as you draft Vala, she's a hero that requires a lot of resources. I like that they picked up Garrosh for Pickles of Death because he performed so well on it yesterday. I hope that they ban away the Diablo in this comp. With Hanzo, he doesn't necessarily do the best against Diablo. He's not terrible. I really like the Stukov as well. Garrosh Stukov is really strong, and Hanzo is really flexible. They can still go into more of a dive heavy comp, but with the Garrosh, it looks like they're most likely going to be playing front to back. Curious what they go for.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I wonder even like on the opposing side, what do you ban out against Clown Fiesta? Maybe you prioritize. I was actually going to say the Dahaka, but I was also at the same time like, it's Battlefield. Do you really want to ban out a Dahaka? But as we've been seeing throughout the free agent tournament from day one and yesterday's games and day number 2, Dahaka has had more priority on maps where he wasn't as, I wouldn't say viable, but just prioritized. Like we saw him on Infernal Shrines a bunch yesterday too, and we were kind of like, it's not a bad map for him, but it's not his best. There's other solo laners that kind of do it better. Leoric, Rexar, Urel as well. But either way, there's that Diablo ban as you had mentioned here, Justing, and I completely agree.
Plays Murden. So the Diablo ban doesn't really hurt them too much in the end. Murden is a character who, for the most part, can handle getting thrown by Garrosh. So it'll be, I hope that Clown Fiesta picks something that has kill pressure on a Murden. Stukov Garrosh is very, very scary to play into as a frontliner. So I'm hoping that they pick something with percent damage. Even something like a Malthael might be okay. Into Vala, it's a little rough, but I like the Li Ming. And yeah, Leoric. Okay, so they have percent damage from Leoric, and they pick the Li Ming for burst. I really do like the comp from Clown Fiesta.
I would absolutely agree. If you can get a reset for Li Ming into a Malfurion or a Vala, might be able to get the other one for free as well with said reset, and then just Leoric with Entomb. You've got Garrosh with just the AoE. I wonder if we actually could potentially see a Decimate Garrosh here. We'll have to see what happens at level 10. Last pick, though, going to be that Chromie once again, and Kelsier had a really good game 1, so why not just win with what you've won with before, hopefully. But either way, I want to get your thoughts here, Justin. Who do you think's going to be able to come out on top of this one? Because I'm kind of leaning into Peasants Anonymous, but I want Clown Fiesta to take us to that game 3.
I'd say the drafts are relatively even. I think Clown Fiesta might have a slightly favorable draft, so mainly because they have Poke from Li Ming and Hanzo, which is really important when you play around the objectives. Also, Garrosh, Stukov, Leoric is a really, really strong combo for just killing the front line. The one thing is Chromie is very, very difficult to play into as Garrosh. So we'll see if Pickles of Death is able to do what he did previously, where he on Garrosh, where he was kind of really manipulating vision well, and he was sneaking up on the enemy team and sort of catching them off guard. It's a lot harder to do that into things like slowing sands and Chromie time traps. So we'll see if he's able to do that in this game. I would say it's a little bit easier to run Peasants Anonymous's comp, but I think that Clown Fiesta's comp is a little bit better for the map specifically.
I would absolutely agree with you. And then let's also keep in mind Chromie's level 4 or 2, however you want to split it. You've got 3 different options for those time traps. And with Garrosh, who probably wants to play into the bush a lot, you can use Adhoral Anomaly to get that 2 extra traps. And you also have Time Walker's Pursuit, typically at level 1 for the arming time as well. So really cool synergies that we could see from Chromie going into Battlefield of Eternity. And it's actually kind of fun that we didn't see like any Chromie in day 1 or 2, and now she's just popping up a bunch today. So we'll find out what's going to happen here as we've loaded into Battlefield of Eternity, and we're ready to go into map number 2 of our first best of 3 of the day. On the left-hand side, we got the members of Peasants Anonymous trying to move into that best of 5 grand finals, close things out in a quick 2-0 fashion. We got Slug Hunter on the Malfurion, Unaverted on the Vala, Kelsier on the Chromie, Tremor on the Muradin, and Entori on the Blaze. Man, my friend does that to me all the time.
And on Clown Fiesta, we have Pickles of Death playing as Garrosh, Chakram playing the Li Ming, Arion playing the Hanzo, Squirrel playing Stukov, and Aether in the offlane playing Leoric.
Level 1 for Hanzo, we're looking at Redemption, and I know there's a lot of conversation about, do you really need simple geometry at level 1? It doesn't really get a lot of value to the second Immortal, and we'll have to see here, because the auto attacks from Hanzo could be also going into the Giant Slayer as well, so we might have 2 forms of percent-based damage into the side of Peasants Anonymous.
Yeah, I love this. I think this talent is really underutilized by Hanzo players. Hanzo tends to play in a very weird spacing. I think because of that. Oh, he might actually just get hard engaged on here. He might. Oh.
Tremor. They have. Look at the
Body
slight
blocks from
body.
Tremor.
Yes,
Yeah.
the little body blocking. It's like when you're playing Mario Kart against your friends. You just kind of bash them into the wall with your card. It was just like that.
Yeah, I really do like Fiesta's comp though, and for the map, I think that they're in a much more comfortable situation here than they were on Dragonshire. This is much more straightforward for them, and I think that this is a way that they can really flex.
Well, yeah, things being straightforward as well for Pickles of Death, who can just quite literally walk straight forward and try and set up a kill into Tremor. Really nice play right now. We also do have Tremor opting in for the Dwarf launch at level 1. I was talking about this on Dragonshire, Dwarf block at level 1 for the physical armor, and that's going to be nice against that Hanzo, who's going to try and chunk in. The extra Dragon's Breath that actually still caught Li Ming. I think Chakram was like, oh, that's 3 hits, right? And then the third one comes down and hits him in the head.
I'm excited. It's an interesting rotation by Leoric too. Leoric rotating down, so they're committing to 5-man on this camp, which I don't mind that. I think if they're quick enough, Leoric eventually get back top in time to actually contest that. Blaze doesn't do it the absolute fastest, but they know that, so they're sending Unaverted up.
And that's going to slow down the rotation.
I don't think both teams really have too much kill pressure on each other in the bot lane. I think a lot of it is going to be which team can stack more. So I suppose Peasants Anonymous is slightly favored with Vala and Muradin stacks.
That is very true, yeah. Muradin will be able to have that piercing bolt at level 10, but the Vala did have a slight nerf on Puncturing Arrow at level 1, as we actually have a lot of dive into the top lane. Unaverted going to be able to get the Hungering Arrow and find first blood for the side of Peasants Anonymous. And the only thing I just wanted to note was that the Puncturing Arrow, the scaling went from 7 to 6. So a little less on that one, but we are going to be seeing that repeating arrow at level 4 for the Vala. And 7 out of the 12 stacks on Redemption from Hanzo. Doing a great job of building out said stacks, but has to rotate into top lane to help out Leoric clear out this camp. And both teams should respectively go for their Fallen Shaman at this time, as we see that Li Ming already on the right, but a lot of members on the left-hand side. Nentori starting this out to help Tremor. And one last thing on talents. I love Sledgehammer here on this map, Justing. Sledgehammer is my favorite talent on this map.
Yeah, ever since it got buffed, it's been a lot. It used to be a bit of a niche on this map, but now it seems sort of like a staple. If you pick Muradin, it's almost always the Sledgehammer now. I really like that. Also, Tremor knows his limits really well on Muradin, so I don't expect him to get picked off much until like level 10s at least. I think it's going to be... That is the one major point I'd say for the early game, is that Peasants Anonymous has a bit of a favored early game pre-10. I think they have more kill threat. Oh, Arion actually just gets comboed almost off screen by Kelsier there.
Unaverted.
Oh,
getting chased, tries to actually turn into Pickles of Death,
trade.
but ends up going down. So a trade, yeah, Vala for a Hanzo. Pickles of Death chasing very deep with Squirrel, but actually it's not that deep. As I see these, they still have the Leeming on the right-hand side, but Chakram's mana is very low. Jet Propulsion from Blaze will connect into this Garrosh, and he just gets CC'd to the Nexus. We'll see you in 16 seconds, my friend.
Immortal's still getting poked out, though, from Clown Fiesta, so they're doing a good job of understanding macro-wise what their composition does, and so even though they lost an extra member there, they did manage to get the halfway, so really good. We're most likely going to expect Peasants Anonymous to set up defensively and leave the Vala to defend or to burn solo. That's what is mostly expected here, but they're actually committing a lot of people, only 2 people to defend, so that's a bit of confidence. I would expect them to go for a 4-1 split and just leave the Vala.
Now, this choke point's really good for Slug Hunter too, with any sort of roots or even the storm bolts from Tremor, but this is our first Immortal phase, won out by the members of Clown Fiesta. We'll have Belf going into the top lane in just a second, but the fight will continue to break out. Pickles of Death taking a lot of damage. Murden Dwarf tosses in, Unaverted vaulting into the enemy team's face to get that reset on the Hungering Arrow, and we'll be able to do so. Setting up the kill into that Garage. There's a nice CC train onto the Stukov, and that'll be a double kill for the members of Peasants Anonymous. They do lose the Immortal, they find a double kill, and they should mitigate the vast majority of this Belith push.
I like that Clown Fiesta is pushing bottom here, but I dislike how they got a bit too antsy there and sort of forced an engage when they were level 6v7. Sure, they got the objective, but the objective doesn't really help them when they're fighting in the middle of the map, and so as soon as Peasants Anonymous sees it, oh wait, actually...
Oh, that was such a good jet propulsion from Blaze for the AoE stun, and that's a kill into Li Ming.
Yeah, so you could tell that Peasants Anonymous instantly took advantage of the fact that they had a 7v6 fight. Clown Fiesta needs to learn when they can kind of take their foot off the gas. That was a time that fighting is not good, and Peasants Anonymous instantly smelled the blood. They said, oh wow, they're actually letting us fight 7v6. Okay, let's go for it. So you can tell just a really, really good, strong understanding of just overall, you know, when we're strong and when the enemy is strong from Peasants Anonymous. Just a great understanding of the game in general.
I thought you just pushed the brake at the same time as the gas pedal. You can take your foot off of it?
It seemed like Pickles of Death might have been trying to push it down, and the rest of the team was trying to pull it back manually. It was
it's usually me with all gas, and then I end up like Nentori, and then I end up pulling the e-brake, and then I still die. So either way, Tremor though gets the dwarf toss out from the front gate, trying to put a little pressure onto the enemy team, and this Impaler camp does take down 2/3 of the front gate. Vala vaulting forward in top lane. Aether taking a lot of damage from the Hungering Arrows, is forced to tap well, but Vala 17 stacks on that level 1 puncturing arrow. That's 102 damage plus the 107 damage, and this is a kill? No! Hungering Arrow! Bounce! 1, 2... No, okay.
So with the 10 advantage from Peasants Anonymous, I'm curious to see how much they can get with this. It's very, very hard for them to kill Slug Hunter and Unaverted together here. They can kind of do as they please with those two. Those two should be able to basically just do whatever they want with their level 10s, and so they do commit to just take this fort, which I like a lot.
This is a nice gain for the side of Peasants Anonymous, because they will have that periodic catapult pressure through top, some passive experience gain, as well as the minimal amount of structural experience gained as well. I think that's probably the least value out of everything. Well, I guess, you know, yeah, that's probably the least valuable thing out of the entire gain of that structure, but still, 10 to 9 in our levels, and I'm looking through to see if we have anything crazy. We will have the Tranquility from the Malfurion, no Twilight Dream.
Yeah, they set up this time with the 4-1 how I expect them to before. I don't know if he has Unstoppable. Pickles of Death might just go down here.
And yep. Wait, maybe not?
Oh.
Nah, he definitely will. Yeah, there's a lot of really good play into them. And also keep in mind, Murden went heavy impact at level 7, so that's going to be that 80% slow for 1.5 seconds.
This is going to be really rough. Near full Shield Immortal going into
Bottom, yeah.
level 10s of the Clown Fiesta. This is going to be definitely a difficult defense. I wouldn't be surprised if they look to fight past the fort for both teams. Both Clown Fiesta in particular might look for just a really aggressive engage at their fort as sort of a Hail Mary, because it's going to be really hard to slowly defend against the composition that Peasants Anonymous has. They really have to look for a pick early, or they might get almost completely zoned.
Leoric is threatening in the backline right now, and Nentori also just making sure this Leoric doesn't find any sort of big entomb setup for the friendly team. Pickles of Death gets a Groundbreaker into Unaverted, but Unaverted's Comfy just throwing out hungering arrow after hungering arrow and building up those stacks. Notori missing the jet propulsion as Pickles of Death gets hit with the Stormbolt, gets hit with the Rain of Vengeance, pops the Indomitable, but steps into a Sand Blast from Chromie. And that deep breathing, or that Dragon's Breath, is going to find the kill. Temporal Loop onto the Hanzo. He is in a rough spot. The bunker comes down as a physical body blocking tool. Also gets the Blaze out of the Entomb. We're finding ourselves in triple, quadruple kill territory, and this is going to be bottom lane. Keep front gate going down, but Justin, can you go past this keep front gate?
Oh.
Maybe,
Looks like
yeah,
they're
Trevor,
going-
yeah.
Yeah, Trevor wants it. Trevor's diving in deep. They do have the 13 advantage. They might just go ahead and take this keep straight up. I wouldn't be surprised if... Well, they're a little low on mana for this, so I'm expecting them to go back, take the bottom camp, and then sort of just reset and then play the top side of the map.
Solid 2.5 level lead for the side of Peasants Anonymous and Clown Fiesta. They're the ones who need to figure out how to answer this blow up composition from the side of Peasants Anonymous. And Justin, I don't know what the answer is for this.
Yeah, this is tough. Pickles of Death is going to need to look for some of those sort of creative flanks that he did in the last match yesterday. Playing the front to back like this it's clearly not working. Tremor is just too tanky, and they're too far behind now on XP that it's really, really hard for them to, kill the Muradin. So they need a sort of a new strategy. They need to look for some more aggressive flanks and maybe some dives with the Hanzo arrow followed up by Pickles of Death doing the big reveal that he's lurking behind them or something, because they can't play front to back anymore. It's just they're too far behind for that.
Top lane camp will be grabbed as well. And Blaze showed in lane, and with the Time Walker's Pursuit kind of giving that vision, I think there was a little respect from Clown Fiesta, who said, you know what, I think your team's floating somewhere in this top lane. There's a camp available. Let's just back off and soak bottom safely. And that is a good call from Clown Fiesta. They don't have their 13 talent here. They got about 3/4 of a level to go on that one, so they'll just do their best to poke out and clear this lane on the Clown Fiesta side as our third Immortal phase of the game will pop up. The Immortals will be in the north-south positioning.
The Knights for Peasants Anonymous are also going to go to the bottom lane, which has no keep. So if they want to, they can play this very, very slowly and just play very defensively and create a really unfortunate circumstance for Clown Fiesta. They could also put pressure on top and sort of split the members of Clown Fiesta up, but we'll see what they choose to do with. Both are pretty good macro decisions for them. There's really no losing macro play for Peasants Anonymous in this situation.
Now, question. Could they just run to core? Is that a good choice?
That's a bad choice because they're on the same talent tier. But, well, they're about to be. That's the only wrong decision.
Trust me, Justin. I can find all the wrong choices, and here's the storm always. But
this needs to fight here. They really need to fight. They're just not realizing.
Let's see if we're going to be... There's the Hanzo arrow coming in. Pickles of Death is going to be looking for Slug Hunter. Big Warlord's Challenge. Rain of Vengeance from Vala going to be coming out, trying to buy some time. Big bunker from the Blaze will save Slug Hunter, who does pop the Tranquility, and a double kill goes over to the side of Peasants Anonymous. Muradin dwarf tossing in, finds the double kill, and Slug Hunter with the snipe. That's a solid pentakill for the side of Peasants Anonymous. An ace, if you will.
Yep. Peasants Anonymous just going to run it down bot. They know this game's over. They just... had the game-winning team fight. It was a pretty clean fight. Slug Hunter obviously baiting on the front line. You could tell he tanked that arrow for his team just to bait the enemies from Clown Fiesta, obviously. And yeah, this is just over. Peasants Anonymous played really, really well though through this entire game. They had a just really good clear understanding of what their composition does and what Clown Fiesta's composition does. And they sort of just took a little advantage at the start and just ran with it.
It was a 12-minute game again, Justin. A little bit.
Prophecy.
It's like 12:05. Like, a prophecy foretold. Like, all I'm going to say is whoever goes up against Peasants Anonymous in the best of 5 grand finals, I'm going to lean into my mic a little bit here. Please ban Battlefield against Peasants Anonymous. You need to do this. Like, please. Like, they're so dominant on this map. Once again, Slug Hunter, phenomenal healing for the friendly team with 37,000 just about. Vala's damage, nearly 31,000. This is just phenomenal, great, awesome, Omega play coming out from Peasants Anonymous. Clown Fiesta, unfortunately, that is the end of their free agent run. They've been knocked out of the bracket, but still, credit where credit's due, Justin. Peasants Anonymous played a supreme best of 3 series, in my opinion.
Yeah, Peasants Anonymous just really flexed their brain muscles on the opposing team there. They took every little advantage they had. Any small little window of opportunity, they took full advantage of. Tremor really flexed on tank. He played perfectly, pretty much. There was very few mistakes from any of the members, really, from Peasants Anonymous. that being said, Clown Fiesta put up an okay fight considering that they're a lot less well experienced playing together. They're not. I wouldn't expect them to really perform at the same level as Peasants Anonymous, just based off of past experience and playing together. So honestly, it wasn't a terrible game from Clown Fiesta. There was a lot of like good moments and moments where they had like they knew what they wanted to do and they understood their win conditions to some extent. But just really small little mistakes, like the fight 6v7 after they got the first Immortal. That fight really sort of threw the game into a downward spiral where Peasants Anonymous took a little advantage and sort of just ran with it. It's very hard to come back against a team that understands how to push an advantage.
The members of Peasants Anonymous definitely knew their advantages and knew what they wanted to do in that first best of 3 of the day and took that in a solid 2-0 fashion. We're going to go ahead and go to a little bit of a break here. We're going to get ready for our second best of 3 semifinals, Scaling Copium versus IDK. In the break, you can use !schedule to get all the information you need for the HeroesCCL free agent tournament. And as I said, we'll see you in a few minutes after a little break for that next best of 3 to find out who's going to the grand finals up against Peasants Anonymous. Don't go anywhere. This is HeroesCCL presented by Wisdom. Welcome back to HeroesCCL Free Agent Tournament presented by Wisdom. My name's Bahamut, joined by Justing, and we just had an awesome best of 3 to kick off our day, and we're getting ready for our second one of the day. It's going to be Scaling Copium versus IDK. And now, Justing, what did you get up to into the break? Did you knit a sweater? Because I managed to completely rebuild my entire router.
Yeah, I had my cat Springy and went to the bathroom. That was about it. gave Springy some pets, and yeah, she'll be okay until the next break for sure.
Sounds like a nice relaxing break in totality. So that was it is nice though that we're seeing all this really fun action here on HeroesCCL, and I believe we have just another great best of 3 coming up for us all right now. We can actually take a look at, I believe, all of the matches so far today. It's going to be Peasants Anonymous versus Clown Fiesta, and we just saw that being a 2-0 in favor of Peasants Anonymous. And now we are getting ready for Scaling Copium versus IDK. And for anyone at home that's wondering, Peasants Anonymous has moved into that best of 5 grand finals. We're going to figure out who's going up against Peasants Anonymous. And what do you think here, Justin? What's your gut on this this matchup?
Scaling Copium should certainly have the experience. They've got Mene, June, players that. Well, they've got Porky, Mene, June, Pirate Rum, and Thanatos. And players like Mene and June stick out for sure as just being really experienced. So I'm really expecting this team to sort of perform as well as possible. But aside from Mene, they're all from NA. Whereas on the red team, IDK, they're all a little less known to me. But I'm also from NA, so they're all from EU. Might be it's a bit of an NA versus EU here. So I'm not sure.
We got Max Passion, Gia, Panda Colada, and Nagram. You know what? No one's corrected me, so I'm just gonna keep doing that because I think honestly, Justin, you nailed it yesterday. But when we look at both of these rosters, I want to talk about let's talk about Gia on this flex. I believe Gia had a targeted Kerrigan ban in the best of 3 series yesterday against him, and do you think that will show its face again today, or you think that a more veteran team like Scaling Copium, they're not going to be afraid of a Kerrigan composition?
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Kerrigan ban again. I'm not sure exactly why the Kerrigan ban is happening. It must be a Gia-specific thing. Mm-hmm. I guess his Kerrigan is just that scary that the teams are afraid of it. A team like Scaling Copium should be really, really confident, but I think that probably means more likely there will be the Kerrigan ban, because they would probably prefer to play just a really straight-up standard match where they can sort of just prove to be the better team. So I would actually expect that to lead more into a Kerrigan ban, as they just probably want to get rid of any weird things, like any Vikings, Kerrigans, like weird things are going to be probably not what they want to go into on the side of Scaling Copium.
Well, there's a lot of things to consider when you're drafting, but the biggest consideration is going to be, the map you're drafting on. And we've got that ready for you all at home right now. It's going to be the members of IDK choosing to take us to Battlefield of Eternity. How do we get to Battlefield? The team of Scaling Copium will ban out Alterac Pass as well as Curse Hollow. IDK banning out Dragonshire and Sky Temple, which, Justing, we could get a Garden Terror game. But either way, IDK is going to first take us to Battlefield of Eternity. We were just here in our last best of 3, and that was like we were saying, it was just about a 12-minute game won by the side of Peasants Anonymous in a dominant fashion. So going into Battlefield, I feel like we could see Kerrigan's. I doubt we see Vikings, but then my memory takes me back to Season 1 of CCL when June ran 3 Vikings in top lane on Battlefield. So we'll have
June's
to see.
In the game.
Yeah, June's in the game.
The Giga Flex, who knows? He could bust out his Vikings. You really never know with June. Will he be healing? Will he be playing Vikings? No one's quite sure. This probably wouldn't be the map to do it on, but who knows?
I keep saying this, and I keep repeating it because I want it. I'm going to put it in the universe, and I want it to actually happen. I want to see Pirate Realm play a Mephisto in this free agent tournament. I feel like it's an underutilized hero for him. And you and I have talked about Mephisto's skill, viability, even just prowess all day yesterday. And we're going to continue again today. But no, the big thing is just he works on every map. He's a strong hero. He's got a lot of different build styles, play styles. So I would really like to see that Mephisto because I think he's just been undervalued and underutilized, especially when you have someone like Pirate on your team to play that. But we'll have to see what happens with the draft here because we've got a couple bans coming through, Justin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would love to see Mephisto. I think he's very underrepresented currently in the meta. We've got Lucio ban, so that's right away. June ban out. And the Diablo ban, which I don't mind. Diablo has seemed to be nearly invincible in this tournament so far. So I really like that they're banning the Diablo. With Li Ming banned, Hanzo is the one that stands out to me as the other sort of common poke hero on Battlefield of Eternity. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a Hanzo is either banned or picked relatively early on. And Stukov is also a high priority pick, especially with Lucio being banned away. So I'm curious if they choke. Yeah, they look for a bit of a support choke on June. So now I think most likely this is either a Lunara Hanzo or, well, there's the Hanzo.
Okay.
Say Lunara Hanzo or Stukov. So we'll see if any of the other ones are picked up by the side of IDK.
Yeah, IDK they've got a lot of options here. No priority ban or no specific ban to Porky's Stitches, which we could see here. It's Stitches is one of those heroes that like he can kind of work on any map, but it's like, do you really want him on every single map? Like I would rather see like an Anubrak or a Muradin or even a Joanna. So Max
Really
passing Chen. Let's go. And a Stukov though. I do like the Stukov. The Chen. I'm always excited about a Chen. Get your Chen W's in chat.
Yeah, really early prioritization onto the Chen there. I'm curious if that's because of just comfort and they want to pick their offlane here so they can be more flexible in the draft, or if they really just think Chen is that strong. I'm going to assume that it's the first one, that they just want to pick their offlane as a placeholder.
Yeah.
The support pool is a bit choked, so I'm really expecting June to pick it here. It's Uther and Dahaka. So far, a relatively defensive comp coming out from Scaling Copium, but also a pretty good setup for Mene in particular. Mene more known for playing those mages and those squishy, bursty heroes. With Li Ming banned out, I wouldn't be surprised if he just plays the Hanzo, but they're flexible right now, where Mene isn't locked into playing Hanzo, but he could even shift into a Gul'dan again, which he's played on this map before, so they have a good setup right now.
Funny enough, we're seeing Dahaka on a 2-lane map that doesn't have an insane amount of bushes for him to get a lot of speed through, so I wonder if this is going to be kind of a PvP build up against the Chen, because you could go into like, you could basically go like Darkstorm build and get constant essence and cooldown reduction while Chen sits there and drinks. But you could also go into Feeding Frenzy at 7 if you want to get rid of and not Symbiosis at 7, and you can constantly drag Chen whenever he's trying to get some brew. So I actually think the Dahaka is a really good potential counter into Chen, but there's also, you could have also grabbed Urel, who's got a lot of displacement tools as well. So we're gonna have to see how all this works out, or even Rexar, as now I'm thinking about it. You have the Misha charge, so let's see how things shape up in the soul lane. But Avala,
No
Garrosh
Lunara
ban.
ban.
Yeah,
No Lunara ban is really interesting to me with them picking
Yeah.
the Uther with this high priority. It makes me think that they might be looking to go into a double support or something. Their setup would be really weird. They'd almost have to run Dahaka as their main tank, so I don't necessarily expect them to go into double support, but it's very peculiar to me that they would opt for such an early Uther without banning away the Lunara, which is sort of the natural predator of Uther drafts, of Uther solo heals. He just can't keep up with the sustained poke damage that Lunara can put out with the poison, and they still could pick it as their last pick for Team IDK, so I'm curious if they do commit to a double support. Doesn't look like they will. And Junkrat coming through the last pick is a bit strange as well. Junkrat priority in general has been within the first few picks pretty much every single time. So I would like to see Lunara here or some other type of spread poke damage going into the Uther solo, but we'll see what they go with.
It would give a dive buddy to Nubarak. I also like just the possibility of a Greymane here. Percent-based damage with Curse Bullet into a Muradin Dahaka is a nice way to chunk them. It's going to be the Falstad. Okay. Falstad, I'm assuming it's going to be Sustained Winds at level, or not Sustained Winds, it's going to be Tailwind or the auto attack build at level 1 for them. But looking at both sides, I kind of scratch my head a little bit thinking, I don't know who's really the stronger comp. They've got a lot of really good plays and answers to each other with zoning a Junkrat or even just poke of Chromie. Which way do you lean on this one, Justing?
This one's tough. Both comps don't make a ton of sense to me, if I'm being completely honest.
They're with you.
Peasants Anonymous has a good amount of poke, but they're running it with an Uther, who traditionally is not really what you want when you're playing with a sustained comp. You really want fast fights with Uther in general, because you have the threat of getting poked out when you're also looking for poke. And on the side of Team IDK, they also have decent poke with Chromie and Falstad, but they also have, I would say, a huge advantage in having Stukov over Uther. So draft-wise, even with them picking Chen 1-2, I think I somewhat prefer Team IDK's draft, but it's really going to come down to gameplay. I don't think either team's draft is just an auto win for the map.
Oh, I would absolutely agree. I'm gonna pose you on this one. And I'm gonna say I'm actually gonna lean into Scaling Copium, not just because of the player names, but I think there's a lot of really good tools with the Junkrat zoning, the Hanzo poke, even just the Uther stuns as well, and drags from this Dahaka. But let's go ahead and get into this game and let's find out which one of us is right, which one of us is wrong. As we've got on the left-hand side Scaling Copium, Porky on the Muradin, Mene playing the Junkrat, Pirate Rum on the Hanzo, June on the Uther, and the Thanatos on the Dahaka.
And from Europe, Team IDK, we have Gia playing Falstad, Panda Colada playing Chromie, Nagrom playing the Anubarak. Their offlaner is Max Passion playing the Chen, and Vit will be playing the Stukov.
We get into our bottom lane and we check out some of those level 1s. It's going to be the dwarf block for this Muradin. Pretty standard start from both sides. Dahaka looking for the tissue regeneration, and Chen going to be grabbing regeneration globes for that freshest ingredients, which we talked about yesterday, pairs into quite a few other talents. The flying kick at level 4, as well as enough to share later on, I believe, at level 13. But we look in top lane, and there's a lot of pressure being set up in that lane. I wonder what IDK is trying to play into this Dahaka in top.
I really, really like this decision coming out from Team IDK to split the map and not opt into the 4v4. Since they have Chromie, they can very easily sort of defend in the bot lane against almost an infinite number of members. And it's also nice to see that Mene has rotated up for Team Scaling Copium to the top lane. Both of those, the Junkrat and Chromie are both what I'd consider to be goalies, and they're basically the premier ones. They're the best at it in the game. It's very, very hard for any amount of players to siege into those heroes specifically. So it's nice to see both teams kind of responding to that accordingly. But I really like the proactive way to start the game off for Team IDK.
I was just watching the Thanatos back off in this top lane really quickly. Okay, they didn't have the drag. I was looking at the Dahaka cooldowns, and I was like, are you going to be able to drag the Chen and just pull him into the front gate? No, it was still on cooldown. But we'll see how things look a little bit later in our talents, as we do have a camp to be grabbed on the bottom lane for Scaling Copium. And IDK will have the camp in top, as the Beetles will be in the way of Porky. And it looks like, for now, we are going to be having that Beetle build from Anubarak with Legion of Beetles at level 1.
Also, with 4 members having stacking talents at level 1 or built in for Team Scaling Copium, that's another reason that I really like Team IDK, just sort of dodging them. I'm not sure if that's the reason that they're doing it, but having that awareness that all we're going to do in this 4v4 is kind of allow the enemy team to get stacks, so let's just not do that at all. Porky just checking that fresh real aggressively.
Just checking to see if there's a time trap. Oh, very good stun onto the flight, onto Gia, just to put that on 10-second cooldown. But it's also a little inconvenient for the Falstad player. But maybe, Porky was just checking for time traps. That's all it was.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Panda Colada easily could have rotated all the way up there, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That's what he was doing. But I do like so far the macro coming out from Team IDK, and Mene will be fine here, but I really enjoy their split. They're splitting with Chen and Falstad in the top lane for the most part, which is really good because obviously the Falstad can just fly to the bottom lane if anything bad erupts down there. But they're also just mostly denying the stacks from the enemy team from scaling Copium, so I like that a lot. So far, both teams playing this macro-wise pretty well.
Being able to deny stacks like that it's